Russian state TV airs footage of Moscow troops allegedly in Soledar, but Ukraine says its troops are still holding out. Sweden promises to uphold fundamental European values now that it's taken over the EU's rotating presidency.
Pressure mounts at the White House as US President Joe Biden is investigated for storing classified documents.
A newly inaugurated Arctic spaceport in northern Sweden is in the race to launch the first ever satellites from continental Europe.
Russian state TV has aired footage of Moscow troops allegedly in Soledar. As evidence, they have captured the eastern Ukrainian town. It's been the epicenter of the war's fiercest fighting recently, but Ukraine says its troops are still holding out against relentless attacks.
Of course, the number one issue is Soledar, Bakhmut, and the struggle for the Donetsk region in general. We have analysed in detail what decisions are needed, what reinforcements are needed, what steps should be taken by the commanders in the coming days. Also, we discussed the situation with the supply of weapons and ammunition to the troops.
With Russian eyes firmly on Bakhmut, heavy bombardments rain down on other parts of eastern Ukraine, including Siversk. Here, residents bravely outside just to collect food.
We go to bed at night and can't stand it. Every day you wonder if you will wake up or not. There will be peace soon. I think we will have peace soon. I think that very soon our boys will chase the Russians out.
As the anniversary of Russia's invasion nears, there appears to be little prospect of the war ending anytime soon, with both sides entrenched along the front line.
Russian officials and occupation authorities may be preparing for the mass deportation of Ukrainian citizens from occupied territories to Russian Federation. Bloomberg reported that Russian Prime Minister issued a government order in mid-December on revenue mobilization that allocated up to 2.5 billion euros in extra spending for what Moscow calls the potential resettlements of residents of Kherson region to Russia. Ukrainian Deputy Prime Minister Irina Vereshchuk responded to the Russian government's order by stating that Russian officials and occupation authorities may be planning to deport more than 100,000 Kherson region residents to Russia under fears that Russian forces may lose further territory here. Vereshchuk also said that Russian officials have forcibly resettled an unspecified number of Ukrainian citizens to 57 regions in Russia, including those in the Far East and Siberia. The Institute for the Study of War continues to assess that the forced deportation of Ukrainian citizens to the Russian Federation likely amounts to a deliberate ethnic cleansing campaign, in addition to apparent violations of the Convention on the Prevention and Punishment of the Crime of Genocide. The think tank says Russian occupation authorities continue to struggle to coerce residents in occupied territories to accept Russian passports. Zaporizhia regional governor reported that Russian occupation authorities are looking for more employees to work at the Zaporizhia nuclear power plant, as approximately 1,500 workers refused to accept Russian passports and sign a contract with Rosatom to receive passes to access the power plant. The Institute for the Study of War says Russian occupation authorities continue to import Russian citizens to serve in civilian roles in occupied territories of Ukraine.
Now that Sweden has taken over the EU's rotating presidency for 6 months, authorities have promised to uphold fundamental European values. But this may prove difficult with the far-right Sweden Democrats, the Nationalist Party, which is the second strongest in the Conservative government. The main question for Stockholm as it takes the reins of the 27-nation bloc will be how domestic politics play out on a broader European stage. As per tradition, Sweden's Prime Minister has invited the European Commission to an introductory meeting on the Swedish presidency.
US President Joe Biden has played down the significance of the second batch of classified documents found in the garage of his house in Delaware.
Classified material next to your Corvette. What were you thinking?
Let me, I'm going to get a chance to speak on all this, God willing, soon. But as I said earlier this week, people, and by the way, my Corvette's in a locked garage, okay? So it's not like you're sitting out in the street. But at any rate.
Republicans, who now control Congress, have assured they will investigate the matter thoroughly.
You look at President Biden. He wasn't president. He was vice president. He held these in different locations right out in the open. He criticized President Trump. Did he utilize the Justice Department to raid President Trump? Did you think that was right? They knew this has happened to President Biden before the election, but they kept it a secret from the American public?
The Justice Department has appointed a special prosecutor to investigate the incident. In the meantime, it's a case of damage limitation for Biden's lawyers and the White House.
We are confident that a thorough review will show that these documents were inadvertently misplaced, and the president and his lawyers acted promptly upon discovering of this mistake.
The White House says it's been fully cooperating with the Department of Justice since the discoveries.
A cry against, quote, a radical regime change. That's what Israeli lawyers are saying after Justice Minister Yariv Levin announced plans to overhaul the judicial system. 400 of them took to the streets of Tel Aviv on Thursday against the proposals. Levin wants to give lawmakers the power to override decisions made by the Supreme Court, but demonstrators say the move is a threat to democracy. Attorneys are calling for Parliament to retract the plan.
American singer Lisa Marie Presley, the only child of rock and roll legend Elvis Presley, has died at the age of 54. Her mother Priscilla confirmed in a statement on Thursday evening. Presley was rushed to hospital in Los Angeles earlier in the day after suffering a cardiac arrest. Just 9 years old when her famous father died in 1977, she followed in his footsteps as a singer and actor. She was married 4 times, including to singer Michael Jackson and actor Nicolas Cage. She's survived by her mother and 3 daughters, the eldest of which is the actress Riley Keough. Her son Benjamin Keough died by suicide in 2020.
The European Union is expanding its horizons with the inauguration of Europe's first ever spaceport. Located 200 kilometres north of the Arctic Circle in the vast expanse of Sweden's frozen wilderness, it aims to be the continent's main hub for satellite launches and promises to be a booming industry. The ribbon was cut by Sweden's King and the European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen.
This spaceport offers an independent European gateway to space. It is exactly the infrastructure we need, not only to continue to innovate, but also to further explore the final frontier.
The S-Range spaceport began as a research centre in the 1960s. It has developed to incorporate 3 launch pads and gigantic hangars, big enough to house several launch vehicles. It has been vying with several other projects in Europe to become the first to put satellites into orbit.
Abstract expressionism is on offer this month at the Albertina Museum in Vienna. The exhibition, Ways of Freedom, looks at the works of artists of the New York school such as Jackson Pollock and their counterparts in 1950s Austria, like Maria Lasnig. The artist rejected figurative representation and opted for a more radical approach to form, colour and material as an expression of individual freedom, hence the name of the event. Paris Orsay Museum takes visitors on a journey showcasing Edvard Munch, with an exhibition featuring his 100 works. Spanning over 60 years, the display proves that the art of the Norwegian painter can't be limited to his famed composition, The Scream. Munch's fears can be seen in the sinuous lines of his compositions, paintings, etchings, lithographs and wood carvings, as well as the powerful and dynamic colours he used. And in the Spanish capital, Margarita Azurdia, Margarita Rita Rica Dinamita is the first monographic exhibition in Europe dedicated to the Guatemalan artist, a key figure in Central American culture in the 20th century. The name of the exhibition is a reference to the several pseudonyms the painter and sculptor worked under until her death in 1998. Her anti-system and feminist thinking clashed with the conservative society of her time.